Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I'm Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Today I'm coming to you guys with another Monday Reads. I had a New Year's resolution to do these like every 2 weeks. I'm doing them like once a month. It just takes time. It takes time for me to get the books together, to make the time to film, to know I can edit, blah, 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 blah. So I have 13 books to talk about, so I'm going to try and talk about them rather quickly. And I also need to be getting to my mid-year freak-out tag, possibly the latest it's ever been, because it's going to be like end of August by the time I get to it. But I just haven't had time to film, but I am thinking I'm going to have a little more time on my hands coming up. I haven't been in a super ready mood, so I mean, I think I posted a Monday Reads last week, but that one was from like beginning of July. So this is a lot of rereads and things like that. So getting started, I reread, I think last time I talked to you guys, I was reading the Queen of Babel book. And I read that. And then I read the second one. And then I read the third one. I basically just binged the whole series. I think I read the 3 of these in a week. Because they were just really, really good. They're really fun. They are a little dated. I will say that. They take place, I don't know when she wrote them. Like early 2000s, I'm guessing. I don't really remember. They have a late 90s, early 2000 feel to them. Like with her cell phone and stuff. Okay, 2007. So the second one was in 2007. So that's early 2000s. Meg Cabot, adult fiction chicklet. Very cute, about a girl who cannot keep her mouth shut. Basically, she has no filter and everything that comes in her brain comes out her mouth. So I can relate. I do that all the time. And the first book, and then we have our second and our third. They're all great. I don't know if I give them all 5 stars or not. They're all great. I've read them a few times too. Totally enjoy them. I also started a new series, so I'm doing a buddy read with my friend Serenity, and we read Shadow, Bright and Burning, and then we did pick up the sequel of Poison, Dark and Drowning, and then we also picked up the third one, which I don't own yet, but I have it on audio, so we are listening to that one together, but we kind of decided to put it on the back burner for a little bit, but we will be getting to that one together. But basically, this is a series about a girl, so this, I think this takes place like, I want to say like early 1900s England, and a girl who is a female sorcerer, and she's the first female sorcerer in a long time, and because of that she's like the chosen one. There's prophecy about her and she's gonna save the whole world, and so she's working with all these male sorcerers who like know everything and belittle her because she's a girl. But her power also isn't like typical like all the other sorcerers. Like there are things she can do that sorcerers can't do, and this is in a world where magicians are frowned upon and witches are like burned at the stake. So it's an interesting world and it's an interesting plot, and Henrietta is our main character, and I generally like Henrietta. She does some dumb things sometimes, but for the most part I do like Henrietta. I enjoy the other characters too, the other guys. That's kind of what it's about. I know that might not sound super gripping, but it is very fast paced. It's definitely YA. And it's a quick book. So I enjoyed the first one so much that we jumped right into the second one. And then we had a couple weeks off. We jumped into the third one. But like I said, it's going to be on the back burner just for a little bit because I have some catching up on books to do. So I also read Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. And this one, I love this one. This is a reread. I read this one last year. Gave it 5 stars. And I got my book club to read this one with me. And they loved it too. So, you know, great books loves good company. This is the sequel to Starsight. No, this is the sequel to Skyward. I mean, if you've been here at all, you've probably heard me talk about Brandon Sanderson and or the series. But it's about a girl who is trying to prove that she is not a coward. Her father's Brandon a coward, and she's trying to fight to prove that she's not a coward and he's not a coward. And they are on this planet that is kind of like gets attacked regularly by alien forces, and she wants to be a pilot like her father and prove that she's brave and that he was not a coward and they are not cowards, and this is what she wants. And then while she's in the process of proving that, the story takes an interesting turn. So If you like YA, sci-fi, or just darn good writing, this is a great one. I also picked up a few graphic novels. I picked up Snot Girl by Brian Lee O'Malley. He's the same guy who did the Scott Pilgrim books. And then Leslie Hung, California Screamin'. Yeah, this is about a blogger, I think she's just a lifestyle blogger, which I kind of don't understand that people get paid for you to watch their lives. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't live in that world. That's just not me. But she does, and she has a green hair. And this is the second one, so I'm not going to go really deep into it, but it's interesting because she definitely shows you, like, this is what I show people, like, this is what I eat, and this is who I am, but this is who I really am. And she has really, really bad allergies, like prescription strength allergy medication and stuff like that. And in the first book, she just lost her assistant, and her life's kind of a mess, and she's trying to figure things out. And she makes friends with another blogger girl who's also like a lifestyle blogger and or a vlogger or Instagram or influencer. That's what it is, influencer. And it's not as smooth sailing as one might think it is. And then I read the second one here. I'll put a picture here. Third one. This is the second one. Third one in that series as well. And it's interesting. I mean, she is fairly vapid and shallow. I feel like they kind of pull you along, and then the very last bit of it, they're like, something really great happens. Like, it's like kind of like, not necessarily boring, but every day, blah, blah, blah. And then something happens, and you're like, and then it's over. So the third one, it did that as well, but not spoiling anything. The third one, the thing that happened, they inferred that it could be a supernatural thing. And I was like, that's interesting. So I'm hoping that it is. I'm not gonna hold my breath though. And then I did do the reading rush, and I was vlogging. I vlogged that whole week. But the problem is that I barely read a thing and nothing happened. So as I was editing my very boring vlog, I decided I'm not doing this. And I just threw out all the footage. Yes. It was boring. It was basically a bunch of me going, I barely read anything today, or I took my book to work but I didn't have my camera, or I'm really tired, guys, I need to go to sleep, or I have a cold. Like, it was nothing good. It was nothing good. So I did read 2 books that week. I did all my challenges. I didn't get the 1,000 pages or whatever I read, but these books met all the challenges. I'm not going to really go into them, but they're there. I do have a video few weeks ago of what I was going to read. These were it, and I actually stuck to my TBR. That's a first, but it's probably because it was basically number 2 of Ancient Magus Bride, which was great. Loving the series. I need to just hop on and just binge it. And The Help by Karen Stockett. And then I watched the movie after I read the book for bonus points. I read this before. It was 5 stars the first time I read it. It was 5 stars the second time I read it. Believe I cried when I read it because it's just so good. It just brings tears to my eyes because I'm just like, yeah, this wasn't that long ago. Like, my mother was alive when this happened. The civil rights movement, all that kind of stuff in the 60s. And I was just like, wait. And I've asked her questions before. She lived in the Chicago area. I've asked her questions for her. Been like, that really didn't happen, right? And she'll be like, no, it really, really did. And it was like kind of a scary time, but an exciting time because things were actually happening. And people weren't just like getting rights, but rights were being enforced and the world was changing. And I'm like, that is scary and that is exciting. That's kind of what we're in now too. So yeah, it was a refreshing book. I think most people know what it's about. If you don't, that's a little surprising, but it's a historical fiction book. It is fiction, though it's based on lots of true things that happened. And it's about some of the women in Jacksonville, Mississippi in the 60s, early 60s. And we have a perspective from 2 ladies who serve as maids in white households. And then the third gal is a friend of those 2 ladies whose maids serve in their homes. And then we have some from her perspective of like black versus white in the South in the 60s. And then we have the perspective from each of the maids as well. It's very eye-opening. Like, the first time I read this, I was just like the entire time. And this time I was expecting it because I'd read it before and I've seen the movie a couple of times. And, but it still made me cry. It still made me cry. So it's a great book. Okay. trying to move along and not take forever. I also read Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. I finally finished it, guys. I did it. It only took me, what, months? I think I started this in March. I did start it in March. No, I might have started in February, but I think I started in March because I started it and I was probably 75% of the way through. And then, you know, crazy serious life hit and I was like, oh, I'm done with all responsibilities. So this is the third one in the Diviners series. It was excellent. It leaves you on cliffhanger and you're like, what? Fortunately, I have the last book. I have it on audio, but I have it. So I am going to read it. I did make the mistake a couple of times when I was finishing this up of, you know, reading it right before I go to bed because I'm stupid. I do that. I had bad dreams those nights. Guys, I just can't read anything remotely unsettling before I go to bed. I just can't do it. It's a bad idea, Steph. Bad idea. Don't do it. I should leave a note for future Stephs. Future Steph, do not read King of Crows past, let's say, 7 o'clock at night. Okay? Okay, dealsy. Anyway, this is about basically some people who have superpowers in the 1920s in America. They are called Diviners. And we have a wonderful ensemble cast of people with different superpowers. Some people don't have any superpowers. And Libba Bray is just a really good writer. Like, every time I say this, because I read her stuff and then I forget she's good and I won't read her stuff. And then as soon as I read it next, I'm like, holy stars, she's a good writer. She's a really good writer. It's not horror. It's definitely suspenseful and it's definitely mystery. And then it's like a little spooky, scary, unsettling. So, I will read this during the daytime hours, the next one. And then I did read Beasts Made of Night by Toshi Anayabuchi. I really probably didn't say that right, but that's so pretty. Look at that business. It's so pretty. This was a book club pick for our book club last month. And I read it. You guys, I did it. Now, I was literally reading it minutes up to book club. But I read it all the same. And I did like parts of this, other parts I didn't. I'm just not sure if I didn't love the writing style. I think I gave it a 3. And I thought that was pretty generous because there were some slow bits and I had a really hard time getting into this. That being said, that could be because I'm not in a super big reading mood. I'm in more of a mood to like do a reread or comfort read or chicklet read or something like that. That is none of these. This is not a chicklet. It is YA and it's basically about a guy who is a sin eater. So he eats other people's sins so they can live more blameless life. They explain that in the book in better detail than what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to let you read the book if that sounds interesting to you. It is a very different world than we live in. And it's very interesting. It's just, it literally took me probably 40% of the book before I wanted to pick it back up. And then I was like, actually, this is pretty good. And I would say the last like 20% was like, so it really did pick up. And there's another one in the series. I'm not sure if it's a duology or if it's a series. But it kind of has very much like an African tribal feel to it. That sounds interesting. It'd be something you would like. Nah, not my favorite. I don't know if I'll read the sequel, but I would actually love to know what you guys think of it. It's not that new of a book. It's been out a couple of years. On to what I'm reading. Okay, so our next club book pick is Peril at the End House by Agatha Christie, which I'm very excited about this one. It was my month to choose, so I bring like 5 or 10 books to the Zoom table and then I tell them what they're about and then they pick them. They picked an Agatha Christie, so I'm super excited about this one and it's not very long, so nobody should have a problem reading it, i.e. myself. I also have been reading Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. It's really white, so I'm not going to hold it up. I'm like halfway through it. I got like halfway through it like a month ago and then I just set it down. But I'm trying to finish the books that I've started. Hence why we also have Winter on here, which I think when I last talked to you guys, I was like a quarter of the way into it. And now I'm like 3/4 of the way into it. So I could probably knock this out of the park in a few days. It's pretty thick, but it's a reread. And I very much enjoy it. And then, of course, we have Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I literally have less than 100 pages left on this one. I just need to finish this book. So I am probably going to be prioritizing this in Winter over this next week, to be honest. And then a third book that I've also been reading, and I'm also like 75% of the way through. And it is called The Period Repair Manual, Natural Treatment for Better Hormones in Better Periods. I'm sure everybody's just dying to know what I think of this book. Basically, I have a lot of hormone problems. And I've been sick for a few years now, like low energy and a myriad of other side effects that suck. And they've all kind of been drawn back to hormonal problems. So I am doing a very natural treatment currently, which is really good, in the hopes that I will feel more like a human being very soon. But I've been researching it myself. And I have another book that I will hopefully be starting soon as well, just so I can have a better understanding of what it is my body's going through and why it's going through it and blah, 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 blah. But I will finish this one probably soonish. I'm also doing a buddy read of Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. This book, I have read this book probably like 8 or 9 times. It's probably my 10th time reading this. The first time I read it, I was in 8th grade. I literally went into the library in middle school and I said, what is the biggest book you have? And she said, Gone with the Wind. I said, I'm going to read that book because I was that girl. And I did read it and I really liked it because, well, it's good writing, but it was a perspective I had never heard before. And it was very, very interesting to me. I hadn't really read anything on Civil War or even really learned about Civil War very much then. So, and then I had a tradition of reading it almost every year over Christmas break. I would reread this book. And it's a chunker. It's usually about 1,000 pages. I think this particular copy is only like 970 something. And it's a pretty cover too. And it's a movie cover that I like. Crazy, right? But it's probably because Vivian Lee's just so beautiful. Though they made her eyes green. They are not green in the movie, but in the book, Scarlett's eyes are green. I am probably 60 to 70% of the way through this book. We're reading 2 chapters a day. So some of the chapters are like 6 pages and some of them are like 36 pages. So sometimes it takes a while and sometimes it doesn't. What's interesting is there's a lot of controversy surrounding this book right now. I'm wondering how many people who don't like it have actually read it or just read sections of it instead. The thing is, it spans over a long period of time. You start before the Civil War and then you end well after the Civil War. So first of all, you're getting one woman's perspective of this whole book. You don't get other people's perspectives. There might be a couple of pages here and there of somebody's perspective about something, but the majority of this book is all from Scarlett O'Hara's view of how she views the world. So you have to take that with a grain of salt that you are viewing the world from a very narcissistic, selfish, mostly spoiled little country girl and her view on everything from racism, which she does not consider herself a racist at all, to politics, to how businesses should be run, to be how families should be run, all of that through her selfish eyes. So it is interesting because there are things that she perceives or thinks that I'm like, she's not wrong. And then there are things she perceives and thinks and I'm like, seriously, what? But I have to remember that the time, not the time the book was written, but the time that she lived in, this thinking was not just acceptable, but the norm. And again, doesn't make it okay, but holy stars, like people really thought like that and would say things like that. Like, can't tell you how many times the N-word is in this book. And every time I read it, I'm like, oh, it makes me so uncomfortable because that is not a word that I use or I am comfortable even being said. Like, I'm like, the way I was raised, you do not say that word. It is not acceptable. That is not kind. That is a no. They say it all the time. All the time. Very acceptable. And I'm just like, kind of makes my skin crawl. They said it a bunch at the beginning of the book, and then in the middle, for a while, we were okay. Now, at the point where I'm at now, they're saying it all the time again. And I'm like, fine, I guess. I don't know. But it's interesting because it's so controversial right now. It's interesting to read it again with a slightly different set of eyes. I don't think I've read this in the last like 10 years or so. I'm not sure I've actually read this book since we moved into this house, and that's been like 11 years. So it's been a while. So I feel like I'm reading it with a slightly more mature set of eyes. I've always realized how selfish Scarlett was. I don't think I realized till this time through what a narcissist she is. So she's not just selfish, but she really thinks that everything in the world revolves around her. Like, she really thinks that. And you're just kind of like, no. But when things go south, no pun intended, things go bad, she is willing to work hard. She's willing to get into a field and pull cotton and do whatever she needs to do to put food on the table. And that's the part about Scarlett that is admirable. That she is so strong and strong-willed. She will do what she needs to do to get the work done. But she still thinks in a way of how people are lesser or stupid because of the color of their skin. And I would never dream of that. it would not occur to me. So it's interesting seeing it differently now, because I would believe that, like, you know, when I did read this last, I still didn't think that was okay then either. I think I saw her as ignorant, and now I just see her as flawed, if that makes a difference. She's just flawed. Anyway, I could probably do an entire talk on this book. I really could, because I got a lot of thoughts on it. If you guys want me to do a talk on it, by all means, let me know. I'd be more than happy to talk about it. But let me know if you guys have a good current read that you're doing, something you're currently reading that you're just like, this is the best. Or if you're like, I have been mainly sticking to this kind of book, whatever it is. Let me know the genre you've been reading the most. Hopefully I'll be back in more like a 2-week period versus like a 2-month period with another Monday Reads, letting you guys know what I've been reading, even if I've been reading next to nothing. So I hope everything is good. I hope you guys have great days, and I look forward to talking to y'all real soon. Goodbye.